and then they scurried and they ran away and they dispersed. And he shouted at them and he said, woe to you. Who did this? The Prophet of Allah, peace be upon him, cursed those who use a soul as a target practice. The Prophet cursed those who use a soul as target practice, meaning they put the bird in unnecessary pain and misery and hardship and fear and panic because of their action. And all of that is forbidden in Islam. In fact, Ibn Umar once saw a man who was dragging an ewe. He was dragging the ewe by its legs to slaughter it. But he was humiliating the ewe by dragging it by its legs, and it was incurring some pain and hardship and misery. And Ibn Umar saw that action of his, and he said, woe to you. Have mercy, or lead that animal to its death in a merciful way. Lead the animal to its death in a merciful way, meaning don't lose the essence of mercy, even in your dealings with animals and when that animal will be slaughtered. So we have Islamic regulations pertaining to how the animal is slaughtered. That the knife should be sharp, for example, that it should be in an environment where it cannot sense death. So if one is slaughtered, it should not be brought in immediately where it can sense that I'm about to die, for example. That these things should be avoided to ensure, of course, that the animal is always protected at all times. In Islamic history, you have many an example of great concern for animals. The Prophet's great friend and companion, Umar ibn al-Khattab, for example, once said that if there was an animal, if a camel dies on the Euphrates coast because of thirst, because of negligence, I fear that I would be accounted for that action. I would fear that responsibility on my head. And here you have a very general Islamic principle, if you like, that emanates from one particular hadith where the Prophet said, peace be upon him, كُلُّكُمْ رَاءٍ وَمَسْئُولٌ عَنْ رَأْيَتِهِ. All of you are shepherds and responsible for their flocks. So we have a general responsibility for those who are under our guardianship. Umar was the Khalif of the Muslim, of the leader of the Muslims, and that camel was in his domain of responsibility, and he wanted to teach us, because that teaching emanated from what he learnt, of course, from the Prophet, peace be upon him. And so likewise in Islamic history, you find an example like that. In fact, in medieval Damascus, there was a special area that was reserved and secluded. It was for aging horses, or horses that had some disabilities, and people might make fun of them and mock them and whip them and beat them. And the Muslim rulers wanted to ensure that they were left to die and live and die in dignity and in peace. In 18th century Cairo, there was an institution of water for dogs, to ensure that the dogs have water and they have bread. There was Gustave Le Bon, in fact, the historian, said that animals enjoyed a paradise in the Muslim world. And Muslim jurisprudential scholars, Muslim jurists, they had very detailed and elaborate rulings pertaining to the treatment of animals. One of them, for example, is the fact that even if an animal becomes useless and can no longer serve you, like a camel or a horse, for example, you're still obligated by the religion to give it food and to give it water, and to ensure that that animal does not suffer in any way. And likewise, they had books and chapters like books of maintenance, with very elaborate details. And this does not simply stem from a social benefit by looking after the animals, or even a moral motivation, but rather it was a religious motivation because of a belief in divine accountability, that Allah will take man to task for everything that he sees, and every wrong that is attributable to him, that he is incurring on other people or other animals, will be questioned on the Day of Judgment. So Muslims believe that everything that they do is going to be accountable, and Allah will take man to task because of those things. Not only those pertaining to animals, but also those pertaining to human beings and all things. So we should take that in mind, therefore, in this time in our world, when you have many cases of animal abuse, of animal killing, and people, they take delight in that, and they have fun by doing that. And many times, in fact, it involves cats and very timid animals and very weak animals, and people that take delight in that. All of this is forbidden in Islam, and we should remember that we are responsible for treating each other as human beings with dignity and respect, but also animals with dignity and respect. And that is the essence of Islam. Islam is very holistic and very comprehensive. May Allah make us of those who fulfill our obligations towards each other, but also towards the animal and the animal kingdom as well. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.